Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. And thank you for subscribing to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I am your boy, 12 Kyle. Check this out. Thank you for listening to this bonus episode. On this episode, what I want to talk about is a place that's near and dear to me. It is a place that I spent a lot of time growing up. As many of you know, maybe you don't know, I attended and graduated from the illustrious South Carolina State University. And while on the campus of South Carolina State University, from 1991 to 1996, spent a lot of time in a place called Belcher Hall. Belcher Hall was the School of Business. And it's very interesting because when you come on the campus, depending on which direction you come on, if you come on in the front of the campus, it's one of the first buildings that you see. And I had no idea how much time I would actually spend in that particular building. I remember like my first time coming on campus. Well, not my first time coming on campus, but my first time coming on campus as a freshman. I saw that building and I was like, oh, that's a nice looking building. And I just always remember thinking like, that's a nice looking building. And little did I know that I would spend so much time in that particular building. But I wanted to come on here and tell you guys about the School of Business. First of all, Belcher Hall, it is by far the toughest building on the campus of South Carolina State University. Most alum will agree. Some won't. Some will say that their particular department is, but if you know a Belcher baby, which is what they called us, if you know a Belcher baby, you know that it takes a lot to become a baby to a young man or young lady coming through that building. At the time of this recording, last year when I attended homecoming, I had to come on the campus. They had like some of the entrances, because homecoming obviously is you have more people on campus, so forth and so on. I had to come in on what we call the side of the campus. So the side of the campus, you come on the street, and then the first thing that is facing you is the other side of Belcher Hall. And I remember sitting in the car waiting in traffic to turn on campus, and I took a picture of Belcher Hall, and I just remember like this place is a place where I spent a lot of time. And like I said, by far it's the toughest building on campus. They told us, my freshman year, my advisors and everyone said, look, if you want to graduate in 4 years, cool. This is a 5-year program. So if you want to graduate in 4 years, you better go to summer school every single year. And that was cool because like, you want to experience it, but I had no idea that the curriculum was so tough. To say that South Carolina State School of Business, Belcher Hall, breeds tough, well-rounded alums is an understatement. You're either cut from that cloth or you're not. And you will find out very quickly how much you belong or don't belong in Belcher Hall. The way the classes are set up, you find out very quickly how good you are or aren't in any particular subjects. And I'll talk about some of the subjects in just a second. But by far, it's the toughest building on the yard. And you will learn a lot about yourself. You will be tested, literally and figuratively. And you'll have to figure out if you're on the right path. And Belcher Hall will teach you that. I would not be half the businessman or have the business acumen that I have had I not attended South Carolina State University, more so, in the School of Business. If I weren't a Belcher baby to a Belcher man, I I don't know where I'd be because I learned so much. Um, as far as my favorite classes, I was a marketing major. I graduated in 1996 with a Bachelor of Science degree with a concentration in marketing. So I'll be honest, I loved all of my marketing classes, all of them, from international marketing to marketing promotions to, uh, and I really wish if I had to do it all over again, I may have tried to get a minor in international marketing. I would have probably would have pushed me to become fluent in Spanish. I know some Spanish, but I know enough to talk. I'm not, really conversational with my Spanish as I should be. But if I had to do it all over again, that's what I would do. But the marketing classes to me were relatively easy, and maybe it's because I was a marketing major, but the classes were easy. The professors were super super cool. Um, I don't really recall putting a lot of time in my studies for my marketing class. Honestly, marketing is something that really, really came relatively easy to me. So I didn't have to work that hard, but I got good grades to show for it. Um, and so thus it became, like I said, all of my marketing classes were uh favorite classes. And what's interesting is that, like a lot of schools, you don't really delve into your major until like maybe second semester of your sophomore year, going into your junior and senior year, where you're taking all marketing classes. But I love my marketing classes. Um, hated classes. Listen, man, I hated accounting. I hated accounting. I hated accounting. Um, I'm not going to tell you that I didn't learn a lot in accounting. I know I learned some things, but what I remember is debits on the left, credits on the right. That's what I remember. Um, accounting just didn't make sense to me. I mean, yeah, I understand to run a business, you have to be able to account for what flows in and out of the business. It just 2 plus 2 equals 4, right? Or at least the last time I checked. Accounting just it just didn't it never meshed with me. So it's like it was okay. It was something that I had to take, and I understood why I had to take it. But if I had to do it all over again, I probably would have applied myself even more. But you know, students honestly tend to work a little harder or they don't work as hard in classes that they don't like. And I didn't like any accounting classes. Um, I'll be honest, I took accounting 101 and I got a D. And because it was in my curriculum, you can't move forward with a D. You got to get at least a C or above. And so I had to take the class again and I got a C. And it's funny because everybody, all my friends would say, well, hey, man, your girlfriend is an accounting major. Why don't you get her to help you? And my girlfriend at the time and now wife, Sharice, graduated from School of Business as well with an accounting degree. Um, she tried to help, but it still didn't make any sense to me. I mean, it was just numbers. But nah, I really don't have a rhyme or reason or to tell you why. But me and accounting never meshed. Another class that I hated was surprisingly financial management, which is interesting because my career path would lead me into finance, which is something that I honestly didn't want a part of. Um, Financial management was, let me go back. Accounting was boring. Financial management was boring as well. Uh, I had pretty good professors. I will say that much. So I can't even put it on the professors. There just wasn't any interest there. And looking back on it, I was one of those students that if I liked the class, I did really well in. If I didn't like the class, eh. And of course, that killed my GPA. But yeah, nah, it was financial management was terrible. I remember one semester I had a financial management class, and the class was it was a Tuesday and Thursday class, right? So that meant that the class was basically a 2-hour class. And man, that class was about as exciting as watching paint dry. It was terrible. The professor, he tried to jazz it up, but he was from like India, and there was kind of a language barrier to some degree, but he did his best. But I think I missed a couple of classes because I was just like, man, I don't even want to go to class. And that was the worst thing you could do, because particularly when you don't like a subject and then you don't go to class, that makes it even harder for you to catch up. And I get the notes and stuff from one of my classmates, and it was just terrible. Suffice to say, the first time I took it, I got an F. I failed a class. And my mom was not happy because that particular semester I had like 3 A's, a B, and an F. And so my mom was like, yo, what are you doing? Like, like, how do you come home with 3 A's, a B, and an F? That doesn't make any sense. The F is crazy. And so again, I had to take the class again, and took it again and got a B, which means I could have got a B the first time, but it just didn't apply myself. And those type of things happen when you're young. You don't really, I can't even make it. I'm sitting here trying to find the words, but I can't make any excuses for myself. I dropped the ball, literally. But yeah, accounting and financial management classes that I hated. One of the great things that I will say about the School of Business that it did for me was it made me a hustler. Not the hustler in the drug sense, but a hustler in the sense of you learn how to do whatever you can with what you're given. Obviously, if you guys have been watching and listening to this podcast, I'm a huge proponent of HBCUs, historically Black colleges and universities. South Carolina State is a historically Black college and university. The university, more particularly Belcher Hall, the School of Business, made me a hustler. HBCUs have less than their white counterparts. I think that goes without saying. But what you learn in an HBCU is you learn how to make do with what you have and then take it to the next level. And I will honestly say that that's what Belcher Hall did for me. Belcher Hall, from a business aspect, they gave you the tools. While you may not have had the same tools as Wharton School of Business or, I don't know, Princeton or wherever, but you really felt coming out of that School of Business that you were just as good, if not better, than a kid that went to an Ivy League school for business. Your tools are sharpened. And that's another thing that helped make you a hustler, because you learn how to work with what you have and enhance it, not complain about it, but see it through to the next level. And I think that's something that is really ingrained in us, is to do your best, but also increase from where you think you could go. So the School of Business in Belcher Hall basically taught me how to be a hustler, in a sense of you always find a way. Always. There's always a way to get to where you're trying to go. And that was kind of like our motto. Like, it was an unwritten rule. Like, you find a way. You find a way, or you can create a way, or you can enhance the way that you're going. Blaze trails. That's something that one of my professors, Dr. Cole, used to talk about all the time. Blaze your own trail and leave a trail for those coming behind you to follow. Shout out to Dr. Cole. I know he still listens and watches. I appreciate you, Dr. Cole. But yeah, that's one of the things that you learn in the School of Business, how to be a hustler, how to make everything work for you and then enhance what you've created to further push you along. A hustler never gives up. A hustler never says, I can't do it. A hustler will always find a way to make it happen. And that's what you become at South Carolina State University, particularly when you go through the School of Business. Belcher Hall will make you a hustler. There's not one person that I know who graduated from South Carolina State, particularly from the School of Business, that has not been a hustler, my wife included. My brother is also an alum. He's also a Belcher man. And I think that's the thing that really stands out to me, particularly when I go back to the university and I go back to Belcher Hall and I walk through that building and I get that same sense of eagerness. And I also still get, I'll be honest, a sense of butterflies, because there were times where I would go to class and I didn't know what was going to happen. But I knew that I had to make something happen. But you learn how to be a hustler, and you learn how to appreciate things, and you learn how to enhance whatever it is you created. So if you created a job market for yourself, if you created a profile for yourself, you learn how to enhance it. If you created partnerships or networking opportunities, you learn how to enhance it. You learn how to expand your network. You learn how to, again, never say never, never quit, never give up. It's just not in you. Belcher Hall instilled that in us. And those concepts and principles still resonate to this day. The most important class that I took at South Carolina State in the School of Business in Belcher Hall was a class called Professional Development. Professional development was important to me because, one, honestly, it was a class that I didn't want to take, but I had to take. It was a class that was mandatory to take by freshmen. And one of the cool things about the class that I didn't realize at the time, I actually hated at the time, was that you actually had to go to class dressed up. Guys, shirt and tie. You could wear a sport coat if you wanted to, but you had to, at the very least, be in shirt, tie, slacks, shoes, dress shoes. Ladies, dresses, business casual, that sort of thing. If you did not have any of that, you could not come to class. You couldn't come to class in a shirt and tie, slacks, and some Jordans. You had to have on dress shoes. That was mandatory. And if you didn't have it, you better find it or borrow it. But there was nobody who didn't have, dress shoes or what have you like that, or didn't have a tie. Now, granted, there'd be guys who would borrow ties, but no, you came dressed to impress. But the class taught me so much about business, from everything to business etiquette, how to sit and where your foodware should be, your utensils should be on the table, not putting your elbow on the table when you're eating. When you're going into an interview, you stand up, you look the person in the eye, firm handshake, those type of things, just little small things. You sit and walk in the room with confidence. You speak in a booming voice, and you let the world know that you are here. All of those things. Those are things that you can't put a price tag on. When you interview with someone, you follow up with a thank you card, more preferably a handwritten thank you card, because now the person understands that you took the time not to type something up, but to handwrite a thank you note. You follow up, always follow up. You make sure that people know who you are. It's very important that any interaction that you have with people, they leave the conversation knowing who you are. You take advantage of every business opportunity that falls in front of you. There are some business opportunities that fall in front of you that you don't even know are business opportunities, but you take advantage of them nonetheless. All of these things are the things that I learned in professional development. For professional development was only a 1 credit hour class. So you only got 1 credit hour from it, but I think that was probably the most important class that I took at South Carolina State University. Had I not taken the class, I don't really know where I would be. There's subtle and small things that you learn along the way. That class, where we only met once a week for an hour, taught me almost everything that I know about business, how to prepare a resume, how to speak in a crowd, how to engage in public speaking, which, helped create this podcast many, many, many years down the road. it's so many things. I mean, like I could run off a list of at least 100 things that I learned from that class. And again, it was a class that I didn't even want to go to, let alone be in. But the cool part about it was that we all had to go to this class. So all of the Belcher babies had to go to this class. And I think it helped make me who I was and who I would become as a businessman. And a lot of the lessons I think that I learned along the way in the School of Belcher, in the School of Business in Belcher Hall, I don't necessarily know that they were being taught in other buildings across our campus. They may have been, but not like this. Not like this. You got a really good taste of the business world, if you will, in Belcher Hall. And it never failed. You would see all of the freshmen every Monday at 3:00, going to class, dressed up, because they'd be pretty much the only kids you see on campus at that particular time, dressed up, shirt, tie, slacks, dresses, so forth and so on. Headed to Belcher. And you knew it was not freshman seminar, it was a professional development. But yeah, I think that was the most important class that I took on the campus. In closing, I think Belcher Hall did a lot for me. To say that it did a lot for me is an understatement. I think you don't get 12 Kyle, the person or the podcaster or the young man or the father or the successful businessman that you've gotten if it had not been for that class. So I'm very thankful. And it's interesting because as I look back on the class, I can't even tell you who was my professor in the class because I can't remember their name. And I don't know why. Maybe it's because I'm old. But it did a lot. It did a lot and it served its purpose. I don't necessarily know if professional development and the fallout from that class, I don't know if whoever set it up in the university, I don't know if they understand the impact that it would have on not just kids like me, but from my generation and what it did for us as far as creating opportunities or showing us how to create opportunities, not only for ourselves, but for our communities, so forth and so on. And now in our families. And these quote unquote recipes are what we pass down to our children and what we passed on to other future Bulldogs and current Bulldogs, as that is our school mascot. And you pass it along to your kids and you pass it along to friends and family. And you also pass it along to the people that you meet. Because again, my hustler spirit was birthed in that building. My drive and my determination was built on that football field where I played football, but it was also built in that particular building. I spent a lot of time in Belcher Hall. I made a lot of friends in Belcher Hall, friends that I still have to this day. Had a lot of funny moments in Belcher Hall, and I'll probably talk about them from time to time on this podcast. More importantly, I found who Kyle was in that building. And for that, as an alum, I'll be forever grateful. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for me. Thank you for checking out this bonus episode of the 12 Kyle podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast. The podcast drops every Thursday at midnight. From time to time, we drop bonus episodes just like this one on Sundays at midnight. If you haven't done so, make sure that you subscribe to the podcast on our YouTube channel. We're also make sure that you can subscribe for the audio on Spotify, Apple, SoundCloud. Wherever you get your podcast, that's where we are, the 12 Kyle podcast. And like I said, we're on YouTube as well. If you feel so inclined, hit us up, $TWELVEKYLE on the Cash App. And follow me on the socials, at 12 Kyle, at 12 Kyle podcast on Twitter X, IG, Instagram. Well, I said IG, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Again, that's going to do it for me. I am your boy, 12 Kyle. Again, thank you for checking out this bonus episode. I'll catch you guys next time. 5,000.